Hey, this is Scott Photography Bonsai. In this video I'll be doing a hands-on with the Sony DSC-HX80, neat little digital camera. Thanks to Cameracraft in Rockford, Illinois for allowing me to film there. This HX80 is a very small digital camera. Of course, they're having a lot of challenges with great cameras in phones these days. They're trying to differentiate, and this camera definitely has some features you won't find on a phone. It does have a standard 1/2.3 inch sensor that is pretty much the smallest sensor that most digital cameras have these days. Has a viewfinder, has a nice lens attached. You're not going to get that with a phone. I do feel there are definitely still uses and reasons to have a small digital camera, something like this. This has a 24 to 720 millimeter equivalent lens on it, so there's an extreme amount of zoom range on it, but that equivalent focal length, 24, is pretty decently wide. This camera does have a nice large battery in it and an estimated 390 shots per charge. As I mentioned, the lens is 24 to 720 millimeter equivalent, so it's a very, very big range. The potential drawback is the aperture. You got 3.5 to 6.4 throughout that zoom range. I would have liked to see something faster, but it is a relatively inexpensive camera for what it is, so I do understand the apertures are not as large as something a little more expensive. Now, the lens itself, it also has some type of stabilization. I do record a little video you can check out. It appears to work relatively well. I didn't do any extensive testing, but it does have that stabilization, which is very nice to have, and especially a camera like this with those smaller apertures. Of course, a cool feature of this camera is that flip-up screen. It's kind of designed to do the selfie videography and things of that nature, taking photos of yourself and a few other people. Flip up that screen. Actually, when you press the shutter button, when the screen is flipped up, it'll give you a countdown, which is really nice to have in that situation. So you can see here, I'm doing a selfie with the screen flipped up. Press the button, get that few second countdown, takes a photo. Pretty much as easy as it can get with that selfie stuff. Standard USB port on the camera, covered by a little plastic cover. Here's the lens in a little bit of detail. When you turn it on, it extends quite a bit. Even when you zoom in and out, there's even more further extension to that lens, so it gets very far from the camera. Of course, you really need that extension for such a huge zoom range on it. You can tell this camera is designed to be handheld. It does have the tripod mount, but it's not in line with the lens. Also has an HDMI connection, but it's on the bottom of the camera, which is a little interesting. Battery door seems decent quality. There's a switch on it, which is pretty solid. The battery itself is a NP-BX1 X-type battery, 1240 milliamp hour. Like I said, 390 potential shots on it, which is not bad for a camera like this. Of course, one SD card slot, but it does take those memory stick Sony specific cards, which I'm surprised still exist, but that is an option if you have those instead of SD cards for whatever reason. The camera surprisingly does have the electronic viewfinder in it. You have a little switch that you hold down. It will turn on the camera if you pop up the viewfinder when the camera is not on, which is nice. The EVF is very tiny. It took me a little effort to figure out how to use it properly to get a decent look through it. Taking off my glasses worked relatively well. I did figure out how to get a decent view with glasses on. Has that diopter on the top. Very easy to change, which is nice. When you do extend the viewfinder, you have to pull it out by hand so it extends back towards the user, and then it'll work as you expect. Pretty neat little viewfinder. Of course, it is very, very small. Just consider that. If it's a key feature for you, it looks nice when you can get a view in there, but it is very tiny. The camera also has a flash, nice little pop-up flash. Nothing to complain about with that. I did test out the zoom range. You can see in this clip, extreme zoom range, especially for such a tiny camera. I think the best situation to use that would be, of course, outdoors, broad daylight, nice bright situation. You do have to consider the aperture gets quite a bit smaller at that extended zoom. I did try this camera out with selfie video mode, took a short clip, also used my action camera to film myself doing a selfie, so a double selfie. I think it turned out alright. You can see how it looks. Actually works pretty decently well at the 24mm equivalent, the fully wide angle of that lens. I think they did a very nice job with the intended purpose for that selfie stuff, and you also have the shake reduction, which can help. I think this camera will work decently well in that vlogging situation. course, you do have to consider quality will not be amazing. It's 1080p. Also, the sensor inside is small. Just definitely want to try it out for yourself if you can before you go out and buy it, because image quality will not be something like 1-inch sensor cameras. So the RX100 series from Sony, those will definitely have higher quality than this. But I do think this is a nice option, especially if you can get it at a decent price. There's a lot of unique features you won't find in a phone. The EVF, the super long-range zoom, does have a flash, of course, that probably works decently well. I didn't do too much with it. I took 1 or 2 photos with the flash, but it is in there and it's nice to have. Of course, the screen, you can use it fully extended back towards the user if you have the lens face towards you, the selfie stuff, but you can also use it kind of from the hip, as they say, where it's halfway extended. Get some nice stabilization in the way that you're holding it. Do some panning shots. You have a nice camera maybe on your phone, but it won't do everything this can do. You do have more control in this case, a lot of menu options. Very, very few phones have a lot of manual control to them. So that was a Sony DSC-HX80, neat little camera. Glad I had some time to check it out. So I'm Scott from Photography Bonsai. Hope you found this video interesting. Again, thanks to Cameracraft, Rockford, Illinois. Definitely check them out if you're in the area. Thanks again.